I am the groom. And 5 minutes before the wedding, I heard my bride's confession. She didn't just want my money, she wanted my life. I didn't call it off. I smiled as I walked down the aisle, determined to give her a wedding gift she would never forget. And my revenge would be the most expensive and painful gift she had ever received. My legs felt weak as I made one final adjustment to my tie in the church's vesting room. In moments, I would walk down the aisle of St. Peter's Church in Madrid to marry the woman I had loved for 3 years, Isabela de Alba. Just then, I heard voices in the hall. The door was ajar, and I instantly recognized the distinctive laugh of my fiancé. Curiosity piqued. I moved closer, listening in silence. Are you sure this plan can't fail? It was Clara, Isabella's best friend and maid of honor. Of course, darling. Roman is utterly besotted with me. After the wedding, I'll just need a little time to convince him to sign the rights to those patents over to me, Isabella replied, her voice holding a coldness I had never heard before. My world shattered. I had to brace myself against the wall to keep from falling. What if he suspects something? Clara pressed. Roman? Isabella scoffed. He's a poor fool who thinks this is a marriage of love. He actually believes I fell for some nouveau riche with no family lineage. He's so naive, always lost in his architectural designs. Please, he doesn't even know his eco-smart building patents are worth a fortune. Their laughter from the hall stabbed me like daggers. I pressed a hand to my chest, feeling my heart hammer against my ribs. 3 years. 3 years of plans, of a life together. It was all a lie. But you'll stay with him after the wedding? Clara insisted. For now, of course. I need to get total control of his patents. A pause. And afterward, well, accidents happen, don't they? Isabella laughed again, and I had to cover my mouth to stifle a scream. Isabella, you can't be serious. Clara sounded uneasy. Relax. Nothing will happen to him. I'll just divorce him after the deal is done. I'll say we didn't work out, that the marriage failed. He'll be heartbroken for a while, but he'll get over it. Men always do. I leaned against the wall, fighting for breath. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely manage my cufflinks. How could I have been so blind? So stupid? And the D'Alba family debts? Clara asked in a hushed tone. Oh, I'll pay those off quickly with his money. I owe the investors nearly €1 million. They're losing patience, you know. But after today, that problem is solved. €1 million. Investors. I never knew her family was in so much trouble. She always said she was working late at the family gallery. It turned out she was managing a family crisis and fending off creditors. Do you think anyone will suspect? Isabella's voice lowered. Roman's parents are gone, and he only has one brother in the States, Clara replied. No one will question your relationship. Besides, his old friend Ignacio, even though he's a lawyer, always had his doubts about you. Roman is too trusting. He thinks everyone should fall for the noble heiress of D'Alba. I closed my eyes. It was true. I had always been so proud of Isabella, showing her off, boasting about her elegance and class. She knew exactly how to play me, always attentive, always charming, feigning a deep interest in my work. Whenever I explained a new design, her eyes would light up as if I were the most brilliant man on earth. I saw it now. The praise, the encouragement, all of it was a carefully laid trap to make me trust her completely. What if we just leave now? Clara suggested nervously. There's still time to call it all off. Call it off? Are you insane? I've been planning this for 2 years, ever since I have found out Roman's patents were worth over 5 million euros. He is the D'Alba family's ticket back to the top. 2 years. She had planned this for 2 whole years. I remembered our first meeting at the Madrid design exhibition. Isabela had accidentally stumbled into my booth, praising my architectural models, calling them the most visionary designs she'd ever seen. She seemed so sincere, so captivated. She even took out a notebook to jot down notes as I explained things, telling me later it was the first time she'd ever felt fascinated by architecture. Every moment was a calculated move. Ladies, it's time. The music has started, a third voice interrupted. Right then, let's go pretend to be happy, Isabela said, with one last, chilling laugh. Their footsteps faded, leaving me alone in the vesting room, the sound of the wedding march and my own racing heart filling the silence. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, at the 10,000 euro tailored suit, the beard trimmed perfectly for this day, the eyes once full of hope, now reflecting only shock and rage. All for a woman who wanted my money, my patents, and maybe even my life. I took a deep, steadying breath, wiping away the tears that threatened to fall. No, I would not break. I would not give Isabela D'Alba that satisfaction. If she wanted to play dirty, I could play dirty too. My grandfather's words echoed in my mind. In the bull ring, patience is the most lethal weapon. It was time to turn her own tactics against her. I looked in the mirror and watched the flames of love die out, leaving behind only cold embers burning with the fire of vengeance. A strange calm settled over me, as if a switch had flipped, shutting down all emotion and leaving only cold, hard reason. This almost supernatural tranquility allowed me to start calculating my every move like a machine. You want a game, Isabela? I whispered to my reflection. Then let's play. We'll see who's laughing in the end. Not all prey is easy to hunt. Sometimes the lamb becomes the wolf. My phone buzzed. A text from my brother, Javier. Bro, everyone's waiting for you. I typed back. On my way. I pocketed the phone, straightened my tie, adjusted my cufflinks, and practiced a smile in the mirror. Isabela wanted a naive, love-struck groom. That's exactly what she would get. But her fate would be something she could never imagine. As I took one last look at my reflection, I whispered, Let the games begin, my dear fiancé. You think you're the hunter, but you don't know. You are the prey. I left the vesting room and walked through the church corridors. Guests turned to watch the approaching groom. Murmurs of admiration filled the air. I smiled and nodded, playing the part of the radiant husband-to-be to perfection. In that moment, I was grateful for the amateur theater I'd done in college. The experience was proving useful. At the altar, Isabela was waiting. When our eyes met, she gave me that smile that used to enchant me. Now, I knew it was all an act. What an actress, I thought. Worthy of her aristocratic blood, she lies without even a flicker of an eyelid. Her performance could rival a professional con artist's. My best friend, Ignacio, stood beside me as my best man, a look of concern in his eyes. I gave him a nearly imperceptible nod before turning back to Isabela. Dressed in white, she was breathtaking, like a Renaissance painting. Her gown had cost nearly 50,000 euros, a creation from Madrid's top designer. I used to be proud of her beauty. Now, I saw only a carefully crafted shell hiding a rotten soul. Her father, Juan de Alba, was waiting to give her away. The 60-year-old, decadent aristocrat had pinned all his family's hopes on this marriage. He wore an elegant suit, the family crest gleaming on his chest, but I could now see the calculation in his eyes. "My princess, you are beautiful today," Juan said, offering his arm. "Thank you, Papa," Isabella replied, her voice sweet and emotional as she took it. As they walked down the aisle, I scanned the familiar faces. My friends looked genuinely happy for me. Most of them didn't know the story. A chance meeting, a whirlwind romance, a seemingly perfect proposal. Now I understood it had all been a carefully written script, but I noticed an odd sense of expectation among Isabella's family. Her cousin Luis even gave another relative a look that seemed to say, "We did it." Victoria, Isabella's mother, a well-preserved former debutante, had a glint of triumph in her eyes. The entire D'Alba family looked like a pack of wolves waiting to slaughter a fattened lamb. When they reached the altar, Juan kissed his daughter's forehead and placed her hand in mine. "Take good care of her," he said, looking me in the eye. "I will, Señor de Alba. She's the love of my life," I replied. Words that would have moved me to my core had I not known the truth. Now they just made me sick. I forced myself to hide my revulsion, adding silently, "Don't worry, I'll take good care of her, just like she plans to take care of me." The priest began the ceremony. "We are gathered here today to witness the union of Roman and Isabella. Marriage is a sacred contract based on love, respect, and mutual honesty." Honesty. What a cruel irony, Isabella. I glanced at my bride, whose eyes were glistening with what looked like tears of joy, a perfect mask for her victory. A true performer, I thought. Too bad you don't know I can act too, and I'm better than you are. I tuned out the first part of the ceremony, my mind racing as I started to assemble my plan. I needed proof. I needed allies. I needed an infallible plan for revenge. And most of all, I needed time. I would have to play along with this charade until I had gathered enough evidence. Then, at the perfect moment, I would deliver the final blow. "Roman, do you take Isabella to be your lawfully wedded wife? Do you promise to love and respect her in prosperity and adversity, in sickness and in health, in richness and in poverty, till death do you part?" "I do." I looked directly into her eyes. As I spoke the words, I gently traced an X on her palm with my thumb. To her, it was a lover's caress. To me, it was the mark I placed upon my prey. Spanish bullfighters draw a cross in the air before the final strike, a symbol that death is coming. "Isabella, do you take Roman to be your lawfully wedded husband? Do you promise to love and respect him in prosperity and adversity, in sickness and in health, in richness and in poverty, till death do you part?" Isabella paused for a fraction of a second. I felt every eye in the church on her. She squeezed my hand, but I could feel the tension beneath her smile. Her eyes darted to her father, and after receiving a nearly imperceptible nod, she answered, "I do." I saw a wave of relief wash over her. Before they exchanged rings, the bride and groom wished to share their personal vows, the priest announced. I had planned this weeks ago, back when I still believed in our love. Now, it would serve a different purpose. Isabella began. "Roman, when I met you at that design exhibition, I knew my life was about to change forever. You brought me light, joy, and purpose, I promise to be the wife you deserve, to care for you, and to build our home with all the love in my heart. A few guests were moved to tears. I just smiled, amazed at how effortlessly she lied. The woman could win an Oscar. Every word was a lie, yet delivered with such authenticity, such emotion. The wife you deserve. Yes, a wife who was planning to murder me. That's what she thought I deserved. It was my turn. I took a deep breath, smiling tenderly, my eyes full of love. Isabella, our relationship has taught me so much about trust, about what it means to give your heart completely. Today, in front of our family and friends, I want you to know that I truly see you. I see your dreams, your fears, and your ambitions. And I promise to stand by your side no matter what challenges we may face. I saw Clara go pale, and Isabella squeezed my hand again, her palm now slick with sweat. My words were a double-edged sword. I truly see you, and I know your ambitions. But Isabella clearly missed the warning. She thought they were just wedding vows. When the priest declared us husband and wife, my inner monologue was, no, we are adversaries. The game starts now, a game with no winners, only a hunter and its prey. And you, Isabella, will soon find out that you are not the hunter. You will now exchange rings, the priest said. Isabella took my ring and slid it onto my finger. With this ring, I thee wed, promising to love you always. I did the same, but as I slid the ring onto her finger, I held her gaze and said, with this ring, I thee wed, promising to give you everything you deserve. My words dripped with a second meaning. I saw a flicker of confusion in her eyes, but she quickly masked it with a happy smile. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Roman, you may kiss the bride. I leaned in and kissed her. The kiss I had once yearned for now felt mechanical and false. The guests applauded and cheered. The wedding march swelled, more joyous than before. As Isabella and I walked back down the aisle, showered with blessings and flower petals, I heard people whisper, what a perfect couple, and they were made for each other, and even their children will be beautiful. The blessings now sounded like a mockery, but I kept my smile in place, playing the part of the happy groom to perfection. Dear listeners, if you are enjoying this story, don't forget to like and, most importantly, subscribe to our channel. It's a huge help to new creators like us. Now let's continue. Outside the church, the photo session began. I smiled for the camera, playing my part as the happy groom to perfection. I had to admit, Isabella was just as convincing, snuggling affectionately against me during the photos, resting her head on my shoulder with a sweet smile plastered on her face. You look so perfect together, the photographer said. You can tell you're truly in love. Thank you, I replied. We are deeply in love, aren't we, my dear? Of course. Very deeply. Isabella kissed my forehead. During the photo shoot, I began to observe the guests more closely. My friends seemed genuinely happy for me, raising champagne glasses and talking about blessing the couple. My old colleague Pedro even gave me a thumbs up and a wink, seemingly envious that I had married such a beautiful woman. Ignacio, however, maintained a watchful expression, exchanging meaningful glances with me from time to time. We had known each other for 15 years, best friends since university. Ignacio had always kept a certain distance from Isabela, saying she was too perfect, that she didn't seem real. At the time, I had dismissed his concerns, thinking he was just jealous. Now, I understood his instincts had been right all along. The atmosphere on Isabella's side of the family was different. Her father, Juan, maintained his aristocratic bearing, but I noticed him frequently checking his watch, as if waiting for something. Her mother, Victoria, whispered constantly to relatives and friends, a calculating look in her eyes. They looked at me like a prize pig ready for slaughter, interested only in how much value they could extract. Silently, I took note of every suspicious detail. It would all become part of my plan for revenge. I needed to know the enemy's every weakness, every motivation, and then use it all to design my trap. During a break between photos, Ignacio approached me and whispered, "Is everything all right? You seem off." "Perfectly fine. Just wedding day nerves," I answered, but my eyes conveyed a different story. Ignacio nodded in understanding. "I get it. Do you need me to do anything?" "I'll contact you later," I said curtly. I knew he would understand. We had a kind of wordless communication. A single look was enough to transmit critical information. After the group photos, I was intercepted by Luis, Isabella's cousin. The supposed banker, already quite drunk, slurred, "Welcome to the Alba family, Roman. We finally have a useful member." His tone was loaded with insinuation. His eyes fixed on my chest, as if there were an ATM machine there. "Thank you, Luis. I'm honored to be part of your family," I replied politely. But internally, I registered this important clue. I discreetly observed Luis's interactions with other family members, noticing they frequently exchanged glances, sometimes with suggestive gestures. These people clearly knew about Isabella's plan and were waiting for their share of the spoils. In my conversation with Victoria de Alba, I picked up more hints. "Dear Roman," she said with feigned concern, "from now on, Isabella and our entire family are in your care, especially financially." I smiled. "Don't you worry, Senora. I will make sure everyone gets exactly what they deserve." A double entendre, heavy with tension, but Victoria didn't seem to notice. She just nodded with self-satisfaction, as if she could already see the money flowing into the family coffers. "You know," Victoria continued, "while the Alba family has a long history, we've had a few minor setbacks in recent years. I'm sure that with you joining us, we'll soon recover our former glory." "Of course, Senora. Everything I have is for the family," I said, with an unwavering smile, laughing on the inside. I was beginning to understand why Isabella was such a good actress. She had an excellent teacher. Mother and daughter were masters in the art of deception. On the way to the hotel, I noticed Isabella constantly checking her phone, looking worried. "Is something wrong?" I asked. "Nothing." She quickly put her phone away. "Just some routine matters from the gallery." Another lie. I added another mental note. I saw a flash of fear cross her eyes, a stark contrast to her usual confidence. Someone was putting pressure on her. And it wasn't a small amount. After the photos, everyone headed to the ballroom of the Hotel Real de Madrid, the venue I had specially chosen for this wedding. I had dreamed of this reception for months, planning every detail with the best event organizers. I spent nearly 60,000 euros to ensure everything was perfect. Now, the expense seemed utterly ridiculous. The hall was decorated with white calla lilies and lush greenery. Warm yellow lighting created a dreamlike atmosphere. 200 guests sat at round tables covered with imported linen. Waiters moved between them, offering the finest champagne and appetizers. I had chosen the best of everything because I thought it was the most important day of my life. During the cocktail hour, I moved among the guests, accepting congratulations and hugs, answering questions about the honeymoon and our future plans, all while internally analyzing Isabella's every move. Whenever someone mentioned our future life together, I watched her reaction, searching for any possible crack in her facade. She chatted animatedly with her father's business partners, trying her best to impress them. She spoke of using my innovative designs to revitalize the Alba family's real estate business, as if it were already a done deal. With a confident tone, she described how she would apply my eco-intelligent construction technology to some of the family's abandoned properties, turning these negative assets into profitable ventures. Listening to her, it seemed she already had complete control over my patents and my company. We plan to launch the first pilot project in 6 months, she told a real estate developer. Roman's technology will completely revolutionize people's perception of sustainable construction. I listened from the side, feeling nauseous. She was making these promises without even consulting me, as if I didn't exist. In her eyes, I was just an easily controlled puppet, a check signing machine. Dear Roman, what a beautiful wedding, said Mrs. Sophia, a friend of Isabella's mother. Isabella is a very special lady. You two will be very happy. Thank you, Mrs. Sophia. She certainly is special. Special is a good word to describe someone who marries for money. While I was talking to an old, stuffy relative, I overheard someone nearby say, they finally found someone to save the Alba family. This boy has more money than sense. Isabella will teach him how to use it. I pretended not to hear, but added another piece of evidence to my list. The Alba family made no secret of their greed for my money, as if I were a juicy piece of meat waiting to be devoured. Under the pretext of changing clothes, I returned to the bridal suite the hotel had prepared for us. The room was filled with traces of our love, photos, gifts, the diamond necklace I had given her a week ago. Before, these were symbols of love. Now, they seemed like props in a carefully designed scam. Expressionless, I went into the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, and then, looking at my reflection in the mirror, I let a cold, mirthless smile appear for the first time. I took out my backup phone, a prepaid burner with no traceable records, and sent an encrypted message to Ignacio. Contact you after the wedding. Urgent situation. Get your best team ready. Then I added, she's planning more than just a con. Could be something more serious. Back in the ballroom, I resumed my role as the perfect husband. I smiled and chatted with guests. I poured Isabella champagne and occasionally kissed her cheek, just as any newlywed would. If anyone looked closely, they might have noticed the occasional cold glint in my eyes. But in the festive atmosphere, no one would pay attention to such subtle changes. Dinner was served, and Isabella and I sat at the head table. She placed her hand on mine, gently stroking the back of it with her thumb. This gesture, which once made my heart race, now filled me with disgust. But I kept smiling, kept playing the deeply enamored husband. You look beautiful today, I said softly, false love in my eyes. Thank you, darling. Everything is perfect, isn't it? Isabela replied, a hint of self-satisfaction in her voice. Yes, perfect, just like you. I raised my glass, mentally adding, a perfect con artist. I watched her interactions with her family carefully, noticing that every time Juan looked at her, he made an almost imperceptible gesture, as if reminding her of something. Isabela would nod slightly, showing she understood. There was a silent communication between father and daughter, like seasoned scammers working together. During dinner, Juan de Alba stood for the first toast. Friends, family, thank you for coming today. Isabela has always been the pride of the Alba family, an elegant lady of noble lineage. Roman, you have found an incredible wife. And Isabela, you have chosen a talented husband who clearly loves you very much. The guests applauded. I smiled and nodded, while Isabela got up to hug her father. I noticed Juan whisper something in her ear during the embrace, and Isabela's expression became more determined. Thank you, Mr. D'Alba, I replied, raising my glass with a tone that suggested anticipation for our future collaboration. I promise to take good care of Isabela, and I look forward to working with you in business. Who knows? Maybe together we can take Alba Properties to new heights. Juan smiled, clearly pleased with his son-in-law's attitude. If only he knew the truth. When it was my turn to speak, I stood and took the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for being here today, especially Mr. Juan and Mrs. Victoria for accepting me as part of the family. Isabela, you have made me the happiest man in the world. I promise to make you smile for the rest of your life. More lies, spoken so naturally and convincingly. Amid the applause, I kissed her again. I was starting to understand why scammers succeed. They first convince themselves to believe their own lies. And now, I was doing the same, though for a different purpose. Dear listeners, if you're enjoying this story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to our channel. It helps new creators like us a lot. Now, let's continue. After the speeches, the music began. The first dance was to Con te partiro, a song we had chosen together. I remember when we first heard it in my studio. Isabela had said it perfectly expressed how she felt about me. Now, in the center of the dance floor, with all eyes on us, I felt like I was performing in a play. You're nervous, Isabela whispered as we danced. Just a little uncomfortable, I replied. So many people watching us. Relax. Everything is perfect. Our life is just beginning. Our life. I almost laughed at the irony. Yes, your new life. Spending my money. Living in my house. Possibly planning my funeral. I looked deep into her eyes with a loving smile on my face. But internally, I was thinking about how to give her a taste of her own medicine. We twirled around the dance floor. The guests watched us with envy, as if seeing a couple truly in love. This charade had to continue until I gathered enough evidence. When the music ended, other couples joined the dance floor. I danced with Isabela's mother, who looked triumphant. My new son-in-law, you've made the right choice. The Alba lineage is second to none. It certainly is, Senora. Isabela has me captivated. You know, our family once owned the largest art collection in Madrid, until some unfortunate investments. But I'm confident that with your talent, we'll soon reclaim our former glory. I'll do my best, I replied, thinking how desperately this family wanted my money. Victoria continued. Juan invested in some promising projects, but he's temporarily facing some liquidity issues. Perhaps you two could discuss this after the wedding. Of course, Senora. Family should support each other, I replied, mentally noting another clue. The Alba family was in urgent need of cash. This was a key to understanding their motives and their haste. Victoria nodded, satisfied. I knew you were a sensible young man. Isabella chose well. I hope I don't disappoint her, I replied, with a soft voice but a sharp gaze. For a moment, I could almost see a flicker of unease in Victoria's eyes, as if she suddenly realized this young architect might be more complex than he appeared. But the moment passed, and she regained her haughty expression. After the dance, I found Clara, who looked extremely uncomfortable. She was constantly glancing around, as if afraid someone was watching her. When I approached, she nearly jumped. Clara, are you okay? You seem on edge. Oh, it's nothing. I'm just not good with these big events. That's strange. Isabella always says you're the life of the party. Clara avoided my gaze. Well, maybe it's the wedding stress. The maid of honor duties, you know? I understand. It must be difficult when you know things you can't say. Clara faltered slightly. What do you mean? Nothing specific. I just noticed you seem worried today. No, everything's fine. But her nervousness was palpable. Her fingers wouldn't stop fidgeting. Her gaze was evasive. She was clearly hiding something. I decided to press her further. Clara, you two have been friends for years, right? Since university. Yes? Has she always been this ambitious? Ambitious? Yes, so focused on status and wealth. Clara stopped dancing and looked at me directly. Roman, why are you asking this? Just curious about my new wife. I want to know her better through her friends. Look, Isabella, she's complicated. Complicated in what way? Clara glanced around, making sure Isabella wasn't nearby. Maybe we should talk another time. When you're already married, I finished for her. When it's already too late. Clara turned pale. Roman, you know? I took a deep breath. Look, Clara, I don't want to make a scene here, but you should know that aiding and abetting fraud is a crime. As maid of honor, you are now an accomplice. I tried to talk her out of it. Clara's voice trembled, her eyes filled with fear. I told her it was wrong, but she won't listen. I stopped dancing completely. What is she planning? What are you going to do? She asked, clearly terrified. I haven't decided yet, I answered honestly, but I will not allow myself to be used as an ATM. Roman, for the love of God, don't make a scene here. There are 200 guests. Don't worry, Clara. I have no intention of making a scene. Then what are you going to do? For the first time, a genuine smile touched my lips, something she would never have expected. They say not all venomous snakes rattle before they strike. Clara's face grew even paler. Roman, you're scaring me. Good. Hold on to that fear. Because you're a part of this game, too. The music ended, and we pulled apart. Clara went straight to Isabella, who was chatting with a few of my colleagues. I watched as the two of them whispered urgently, Isabella glancing nervously in my direction from time to time. Their conversation looked tense. At one point, Isabella even grabbed Clara's arm, as if warning her about something. The party was reaching its peak. People were dancing, talking animatedly, lost in the celebration. It was a stark contrast to the storm raging inside me. I looked at these guests, wondering how many of them knew the truth about this marriage. The Dialba's friends and family seemed like accomplices, while my own friends, blissfully unaware, celebrated my supposed happiness. Just then, Isabella's phone rang. She looked at the screen, and her expression changed instantly. She answered nervously, "Hello?" I couldn't hear the person on the other end, but I saw the color drain from her face. "I know. Yes, I know the deadline is Friday. No, I don't have the money yet. I need a few more days." Sabella walked towards the balcony to continue the call. Her tone grew more strained, and she kept looking back to see if anyone was listening. When she said, "I'll pay you, I promise. Just give me a little more time," her voice was thick with undisguised fear. I took 2 glasses of champagne from a passing waiter and approached the balcony. Isabella hung up immediately, trying to mask her anxiety. "Who was that?" I asked, feigning concern as I offered her a glass. "No one. Just work matters." "Work? At our wedding?" "An urgent client from the gallery. It's nothing important." Another lie. I made a mental note. Isabella is under some kind of financial pressure. Friday is a deadline. This is likely connected to the liquidity problems her father mentioned, and it explains why she's in such a hurry to move forward with her plan. I noticed her hands were trembling slightly, though she tried to hide it. She wasn't just a con artist, she was a cornered one. That made her more dangerous, but also more prone to making mistakes. "Darling, you seem nervous. Are you sure you're all right?" I asked, my voice dripping with false concern, watching her reaction closely. "I'm fine, just a little tired." Isabella forced a smile. "Shall we dance again?" "Of course." I extended my arm for her to take. I could feel the tension in her grip. Every one of her movements betrayed her unease. A good sign. People under pressure are more likely to show their cracks. Just then, Ignacio approached. "My friend, can we have a word in private?" We moved to a quiet corner. "Roman, what is going on? You've been strange all night." Looking at my best friend, a man I'd known for 15 years, I said in a low voice, "I need your help, Ignacio." "After the wedding, in my suite, at midnight." Ignacio nodded, his expression serious. "How bad is it?" "Worse than you can imagine. Bring your best investigators. I need a full background check on the De Alba family's financial records, especially their debt situation, and on Isabella's past. I suspect this isn't the first time she's done something like this." "What are you saying?" "You're saying, I'm saying I just discovered that my brand new wife only married me for my money and my patents. And she might be planning something worse." Ignacio stared at me, shocked. "My God, Roman, how did you find out?" "I overheard her conversation with Clara before the wedding. I'll give you the details later. Right now, I need you to act fast." "Roman, this is frightening. Why don't you just walk away? We can file for an annulment immediately." "No, that would be too easy for them. I want them to taste their own medicine." "Revenge? That's not like you, Roman. You've always been the rational one." "Rational? Yes, I'm more rational now than I have ever been. This is an emotional revenge, Ignacio. It's a precisely calculated plan to ensure she can never harm anyone again. As my grandfather used to say, to hunt the wolf, you must first think like a wolf." Ignacio took a deep breath. "I understand. What do you need me to do?" "First, gather all the evidence. Second, find out who her creditors are. I suspect she owes a lot of money, and the clock is ticking. And after that, we design a trap, and we let her walk right into it." The party continued, and Isabella and I resumed our perfect performance as happy newlyweds. I mingled with guests. I smiled. I danced, just as any groom would. No one could see the cold calculation churning inside me. Later, Isabella received a second mysterious call and once again made an excuse to step away. I pretended to chat with my friends, but I watched her every move. I saw her return to the ballroom, her face pale, trying desperately to hide her fear, but her trembling hands and the desperation in her eyes gave her away. I took the opportunity to speak with several friends, intentionally mentioning my patents and future plans for the company. I'm considering expanding the scope of the business. I might need more legal protection, I said to a lawyer friend, loud enough for nearby members of the Dialba family to overhear. I talked about how my patents could revolutionize the entire construction industry, generating hundreds of millions of euros. I saw Isabella's father's eyes light up, his greed practically radiating from him. The avarice of these people was so obvious it made me sick. But I kept smiling, kept talking about my plans like a naive, unsuspecting millionaire. Midnight approached, the traditional time for the couple to depart. Isabella and I cut the cake one last time for the photographers. Finally, it was time to head to the bridal suite in the hotel. On the way, Isabella leaned against me, purring sweetly. Darling, from today on, everything you have is mine. I stroked her hair, replying tenderly, yes, everything I have is prepared for you. Juan and Victoria said their tearful goodbyes. My daughter, I wish you all the happiness, Victoria said. Take care of each other. Juan embraced me as if I were his own son. If only they knew the truth. In the hotel elevator, Isabella finally let her guard down. Ugh, thank God that's over. Pretending to be happy is exhausting. I looked at her, feigning surprise. Pretending, realizing her slip, Isabella quickly corrected herself. No, I didn't mean it like that. I just mean the wedding was exhausting. Too many people, too much noise. But now, it's just the two of us. Yes, just the two of us, I repeated, with a meaning that Isabella seemed to miss. It's good to be back in our own world, Isabella continued. Those guests were so tiresome, especially your friend Ignacio. He was always watching me with that scrutinizing gaze. Ignacio is just overly protective of me, I replied smoothly. He's always been that way, ever since university. Well, I hope he understands that we're married now, and he can't monopolize your time like he used to. I smiled. Of course, my love. From now on, all my time is yours. In the suite, Isabella went straight to the bathroom to shower. I seized the opportunity, pulled out my phone, and sent a text to Ignacio. Situation confirmed. See you at midnight. Bring everything. The reply came back instantly. Understood. Everything is ready. I put the phone away and went into the bathroom, splashing my face with cold water. I looked at myself in the mirror, and for the first time, a cold, emotionless smile spread across my face. Then, just as quickly, I smoothed my features back into the expression of a deeply enamored groom. Isabella emerged from the bathroom in an expensive silk nightgown, approaching me with a seductive smile. At last, Mr. Dominguez. At last, Mrs. Dominguez, I replied. But she didn't notice the ice in my eyes. She moved closer and began to unbutton my shirt. You know, from today on, everything you have is mine. I stroked her hair, replying softly, yes, everything I have is prepared for you. Isabella looked up, a flicker of confusion in her eyes. You're a little strange today, Roman. Is everything okay? Of course, I smiled. I'm just so happy. It's almost unbelievable. She seemed to accept this explanation and continued with my shirt buttons. I knew this was the beginning of the game. From this moment on, every step had to be cautious, every move calculated. A war without smoke had begun, and I had to make sure I was the final victor. 24 hours later, in a darkened room, several elite hackers were tracing fund flows and decrypting encrypted emails. The screens on the wall updated the D'Alba family's asset and liability balance in real time. This was the Special Investigation Department of Ignacio's law firm, staffed by former intelligence agents who specialized in highly sensitive corporate cases. The atmosphere in the room was tense and focused, with everyone working at full capacity. "New finding," said a young woman in glasses. "Isabela has been in frequent contact with a man named Antonio Vargas for the past 6 months." "Vargas?" Ignacio frowned. "Run a background check on him." "Already on it. Preliminary results show he owns an illegal currency exchange in Madrid, with ties to several underground casinos." "Keep digging. I need to know the exact nature of their relationship, especially any financial transactions." I sat in Ignacio's office in the heart of Madrid, reviewing a thick binder. Dozens of pages of investigation reports, including bank records, email captures, and photographs. Every page revealed more of the D'Alba family's secrets. Every piece of information convinced me my decision was the right one. "Your team works fast," I said. "Is this everything I need?" Ignacio nodded. "Everything we could find. We worked through the night, using all our resources. The investigation is ongoing, but this is enough to understand the basic situation." I carefully read the detailed report on Isabela de Alba. The de Alba family, ostensibly old Spanish nobility, is in reality deeply in debt. Juan de Alba, after a series of failed investments in 2021, owes nearly 2 million euros, most of it to illegal lenders like Vargas. The family's assets include an old mansion in Madrid, crumbling with age, and some antique paintings of uncertain value. Juan had tried to sell off some of the family art collection to cover the debts, but with little success, as none of the pieces were truly valuable. I took a deep breath. The D'Alba's situation was worse than I had imagined. They weren't just in decline, they were completely bankrupt. No wonder Isabela was so desperate. She wasn't just after money, she was trying to save her entire family. Isabela de Alba, 28 years old, degree in business management, ostensibly works as the manager of the family gallery. In reality, she manages the family's financial crisis. In the last 3 years, there are records of two similar marriage plots, both targeting wealthy, single men, both failing in the final stages. Her spending habits are extremely lavish, though the family can no longer support them. She has several credit cards, all near their limit. She currently owes about 250,000 euros personally, mostly to maintain the facade of a luxurious lifestyle. A wave of nausea hit me. "She's done this before?" "Twice," Ignacio confirmed. "The first was with Alberto Ferrari, a fashion designer from Milan. His father discovered Isabela's true motives and called off the wedding. The second was with Daniel Sanchez, a tech entrepreneur from Malaga. He noticed some suspicious behavior and ended the relationship. Was she planning to do something to them?" Ignacio's expression turned grim. "We found some disturbing evidence. During her relationship with Sanchez, she made inquiries about accidental death insurance payouts. There's no direct proof she was planning a murder. But a chill ran down my spine. This wasn't just marriage fraud. This was a potential murder plot. I remembered Isabela's mention of accidents in her conversation with Clara before the wedding. Now, That word took on a much more sinister meaning. We need to confirm if she has a specific plan to kill me, I said, my voice low and hard. If she does, we need to get proof. We're monitoring all her communications, Ignacio replied. Any suspicious activity will be reported to you immediately. I continued reading. Clara Mendez, 28, Isabela's university classmate, appears to have acted as a bridesmaid in all previous marriage schemes. Her family runs a small restaurant, currently on the verge of bankruptcy. Personal debt of around 100,000 euros, mostly student loans. Due to her family's financial problems, she is extremely dependent on Isabela's financial support, making her an easily manipulated accomplice. Clara could be a breaking point, I mused. She seems deeply uncomfortable and has moral reservations about Isabela's plan. Yes, according to our analysis, she's the most likely to be persuaded, and she has a motive. If she can break free from Isabela's control and solve her own financial problems, she would probably cooperate. I nodded, arrange a chance meeting with her. It's already planned. She has coffee at 10 tomorrow morning at a cafe near the San Miguel market. Then I saw the most crucial piece of information. Creditor, Antonio Vargas, owner of an illegal currency exchange in Madrid, with ties to several underground casinos. The de Alba family owes him approximately 1.5 million euros, with a payment deadline of this Friday. Vargas has a history of violence. He's been investigated for several assault cases, though never convicted. He is believed to have connections to several local criminal organizations, specializing in drugs and high-interest loans. Vargas is a dangerous man, Ignacio warned. If the Dialbas can't pay him on time, the consequences could be severe. So that's why Isabela is so desperate. I understood. She's not just chasing money, she's racing against the clock. The report also included logs of Isabela's private social media chats with several close friends, filled with mockery of me and fantasies about her future life of luxury. One message stung more than any other. She was making fun of the gift I'd given her when I confessed my love, a handmade architectural model, calling it a worthless, handcrafted trinket. She said the first thing she would do once she got the money was throw it away. When he gave me that stupid architectural model, his face was so expectant, as if he'd handed me the entire world. The thing was hideous, but I had to pretend I loved it. If he knew what I really thought, he'd probably cry, she wrote in the chat. These new money types have no culture. They only know how to buy love. I closed the file and took a deep breath. This was worse than I had imagined. It wasn't just that she wanted my money. Her family owed a fortune to the mob. And on top of it all, she was planning to kill you, Ignacio said, his voice flat. According to several encrypted emails we uncovered, she's already contacting so-called accident specialists. Full stop. Can these emails be used as evidence? I'm afraid not. The way we obtained them wasn't exactly legal. If you want to go the legal route, we need more legitimate proof. I stood up and walked to the window, gazing out at the streets of Madrid. The city glittered under the sun. People hurried along to their destinations, completely oblivious to the perfect revenge being plotted within this very building. Now you understand why I didn't call off the wedding immediately, don't you? Ignacio nodded. I understand that, but I still don't see your plan. Wouldn't an annulment be enough? We have sufficient proof of fraud. I shook my head. No, that would be too easy for her. If I walk away now, she'll just find another target and possibly seek revenge on me. I can't let her have the chance to harm anyone else. So, what do you want to do? I'm going to give her exactly what she wants, but not in the way she expects. She wants a game. I'll put her in checkmate. I grabbed a pen and quickly sketched an outline of the plan on a piece of paper. My focus was sharp, the way it was when I designed a complex building. Every step was calculated with precision, every detail carefully considered. This was no longer an architectural design, but a meticulously constructed trap, a perfect cage designed specifically for Isabela. First step, I need you to draft a special power of attorney. It needs to look like it gives her control over my assets, but it must have a snare built into it. The moment she tries to use it illegally, it will trigger clauses of legal liability. Ignacio frowned. Roman, that's risky. If it isn't designed perfectly, you could get tangled in legal trouble yourself. Then design it perfectly. I looked him straight in the eye. That's why I came to you. You're the best commercial lawyer in Spain. Ignacio nodded slowly. It's feasible, but it will take time. I'm thinking of a joint and several liability clause, typically used in partnership agreements. We can link the power of attorney to a temporary business collaboration agreement. Once she signs the power of attorney, she'll be implicitly signing the agreement, activating that clause. Won't the notary warn her? They will. But if she's eager, she'll likely dismiss the technicalities. Full stop. Perfect. Second, I need to persuade Clara. She's the weak link in this whole scheme. How do you want to do that? Arrange a chance encounter for me with her. But before you do, find out the specific financial troubles her family's restaurant is facing. I need to make her an offer she can't refuse. Ignacio jotted down the points. Anything else? The most important part, I need a meeting with Vargas. The mob? That's far too dangerous. No, it's necessary. Isabela's debt to him is our greatest leverage. I need him to keep applying pressure, but on my terms. I continued to explain my plan in detail. Ignacio watched me, a look of astonishment on his face, as if he were seeing me for the first time. I was no longer the naive artist focused on creating beautiful buildings, but a cold, precise strategist. Every move meticulously calculated. Roman, I've known you for 15 years, and I've never seen you like this. You're normally so rational, so restrained. My expression hardened. She wants to play a game. I'm just changing the rules, using her own best weapon, deceit, against her. In the game of hunter and prey, the calmest one wins. Ignacio observed the stranger before him, understanding what true anger looked like. Not an explosive fire, but a cold, precise plan of vengeance, like a sharpened scalpel, not to heal, but to dissect. I'll help you, Ignacio said finally, but promise me one thing. When the revenge is over, you come back to your true self. I nodded. First, let's begin the hunt. Remember my grandfather's words. When the wolf comes, you can either run or you can become a fiercer wolf. Full stop. The next day, I casually ran into Clara at a quiet cafe. The setup was seamless. I was pretending to buy coffee, and she just happened to be sitting there. When she saw me, her expression shifted instantly. Clearly flustered, she tried to leave. Clara, don't go. We need to talk. Roman, I don't know what you're talking about. You know what I overheard before the wedding. I know the entire plan. Clara's face went pale. I I'm not the one who came up with it. But you're an accomplice. I pushed an envelope across the table toward her. There are two things in here. a one-way plane ticket to Lisbon, and an employment contract. A friend of mine there is willing to hire you. There's also enough money to help your family's restaurant get through its crisis. Clara stared at the envelope in disbelief. Why? Because I need your help. I need you to testify about Isabella's plan, to provide details of her two previous failed marriages. And if I refuse, I pushed another folder forward. Then this report for conspiracy to commit fraud goes to the police. Now, you choose. Clara's hands trembled as she took the envelope. What do I have to do? First, act normal. Continue to be Isabella's friend. When she talks about me or the plan, record it. Ignacio will arrange for the necessary equipment. She'll kill me. She won't. By the time this is over, you'll already be starting a new life in another country. Clara took a deep breath. Fine, I'll help you, but not for your money. I'm doing it because I'm sick of her controlling me. Do you know? This is the third time. I was involved in the other two as well. She claims I owe her because she helped my family out of a financial bind. This time, you're helping yourself, I said. This is your escape ticket. Clara looked both terrified and relieved. What are you planning to do? Are you going to hurt her? I just want her to have a taste of her own medicine. The law will give her the punishment she deserves. Roman, you don't know Isabela. She won't give up easily. She'll fight back, and it will be vicious. I'm not afraid of her, I said calmly. I know who I'm dealing with now. To ensure Clara's cooperation, Ignacio sent her an untraceable, anonymous email. The attachment contained proof of her participation as a bridesmaid in Isabella's two previous failed attempts at marriage fraud. Photos with one of the ex-fiancés, for instance. The body of the email contained only one sentence. Some ships, once boarded, can never be abandoned. This psychological pressure, combined with the financial incentive, secured Clara's loyalty. 2 hours later, Ignacio and I were in a luxurious, armored limousine heading to a private estate on the outskirts of Madrid. Ignacio had arranged the meeting through multiple contacts, guaranteeing our safety and demonstrating that I was not someone to be trifled with. Are you sure about this? Ignacio asked. Vargas isn't someone you play games with. I need his cooperation. He's a key piece in my plan. We arrived at a modern villa where 4 bodyguards patted us down before leading us into a meeting room. Antonio Vargas, a burly man in his 50s, was waiting for us on a sofa. He looked more like a successful businessman than a typical mobster, but the chill in his gaze was unmistakable. Senor Dominguez, what a pleasant surprise. His voice was deep and dangerous. I understand you were recently married. Congratulations. Thank you, Senor Vargas. I want to talk about my father-in-law, Juan de Alba. Vargas's expression turned serious. That old scoundrel owes me $1.5 million. The deadline is this Friday. I nodded. I know. I want to propose a deal. What kind of deal? I'll pay the entire debt, but I need you to cooperate with me for 1 week. Vargas eyed me with suspicion. Specifically, first, continue to apply pressure, but with no violent actions. Make Isabela afraid, but do not harm her. Second, I need you to make a few specific phone calls to her, the content of which I will provide. Lastly, I need you to send someone to visit the D'Alba mansion one time. No words, just have them stand at the gate for an hour. Vargas considered this for a moment. Why should I help you? I'll get my money one way or another, either from you or from the D'Alba family's other assets. Ignacio interjected, because Roman is offering you clean, uncomplicated money. Furthermore, Senor Ramirez, from the National Bank of Spain, is a friend of Roman's and would greatly appreciate your cooperation. Right on cue, Ignacio's phone rang. It was a member of our team posing as an employee from the Zurich branch of a Swiss bank, discussing the transfer of a large sum of money in German. The performance was enough to convince Vargas of my power and influence. Vargas's eyes widened slightly. I see. It appears you're more than just an architect, Dominguez. Everyone wears a mask, Senor Vargas. The calmest waters run the deepest. Deal. But I want half up front. I nodded. It will be in your account tomorrow. Vargas stood and extended his hand. Dominguez, you're an interesting man. I thought you were just some bookish designer, but your heart is blacker than mine. I shook his hand. It's not darkness, Senor Vargas. It's just knowing how to protect myself when necessary. Vargas laughed. I like your style. If you ever get tired of architecture, look me up. My business always has room for men like you. On the way back to the city, Ignacio asked, What's the next step? Prepare the power of attorney. Make it look incredibly appealing, but bury enough legal traps to sink a ship. And then, I will become the most perfect husband in history. Over the next few days, I began my carefully orchestrated performance. I brought Isabela breakfast in bed every morning. I came home from work with flowers or small gifts. I behaved like a man utterly blinded by love, cheerfully agreeing to her every request. You look so beautiful today, I would tell her. I'm the luckiest man in the world. Isabela was initially surprised by my sudden enthusiasm, but she soon accepted it as a normal part of the honeymoon phase. She had no idea that my every move, my every word, was meticulously calculated with a single purpose: to make her let down her guard. At the same time, I made it my mission to learn everything about her, her habits, her tastes, her weaknesses. I noted her obsession with luxury goods, her hunger for designer clothes and jewelry. She frequently bought things online she couldn't afford, then invented excuses to justify the expenses. Her obsession with status was almost pathological. She was always emphasizing the noble lineage of the de Alba family, even though they were now in decline. I also began to inadvertently reveal details about my business plans and financial situation, leading Isabela to believe she was gaining insider information. I'd take calls in front of her, discussing multi-million euro transactions and potential partners, making her think I was on the verge of accessing a massive fortune. When she asked about these plans, I told her everything with apparent trust, even showing her documents. What she didn't know was that all of this information was carefully fabricated, designed to entice her to act. On the third day, Isabela made her first move. Darling, she began, I was thinking, perhaps we should merge our finances. Of course, that's a great idea, I agreed immediately. We're married after all. How would you like to arrange it? Isabela couldn't hide her surprise. Really? You don't mind? Why would I mind? I trust you, Isabela. You're my wife. Well, perhaps we could open a joint account and transfer our main assets there. That sounds reasonable. I'll go to the bank and arrange it tomorrow. Isabela's eyes gleamed with victory. She didn't know that I had already coordinated with Ignacio to alter the bank authorization terms. Any significant transfer would require both of our signatures. That same night, through the listening device Clara had planted, I heard Isabela telling her mother, He trusts me completely. He's like some country bumpkin who's never seen the world, willing to give me anything. Don't get too confident, Isabela, her mother, Victoria, warned. Some men seem foolish, but are actually very shrewd. Remember your aunt's second husband? Mother, relax. Roman isn't like that. All he understands is architecture. He knows nothing about business. He doesn't even know what his patents are worth. All the better. Our family needs that money. Vargas is already making threats. I know, Mother. I'm handling it. Just give me a few more days, and I'll have enough to pay off the debt. I hope so. Your father can't take this pressure much longer. Vargas's men came by again yesterday. They just stood at the gate, staring at us, without saying a word. Don't worry, I have a plan. Roman has agreed to merge our finances. It's a good start. On the fourth day, Isabela received a call from Vargas. I pretended to listen casually as she responded. I know the deadline is Friday. No, I don't have the money yet. Please, just give me a little more time. When she hung up, her face was pale, clearly frightened. I asked with concern, Did something happen, my love? It's nothing. Just a difficult client from the gallery. I pulled her into an embrace. Is there anything I can do to help? Do you need money? Isabela hesitated for a moment. Actually, some of my father's investments have gone sour. We need some temporary liquidity, about 500,000 euros. 500,000? I feigned contemplation. I can arrange it, but it will take a few days. Isabela hugged me tightly. Thank you, Roman. You've saved me. And she never even mentioned that the total debt was 1.5 million. That night, through the listening device, I heard her say, He agreed. This is almost too easy. The man is a complete fool. He's giving me 500,000 like it's pocket change for a beggar. Once I have the money, I can placate Vargas, and then I'll figure out how to get the rest. A cold smile touched my lips. Isabela believed she was in control, utterly oblivious that every step she took led her deeper into the web I had woven. Her greed and desperation were the very keys to my plan's success. On the fifth day, I brought Isabela to my studio, laying out all my designs and patent documents before her. She feigned fascination, but I saw how her eyes lingered on the valuation figures printed on the paperwork. This is all so wonderful, Roman. She cooed. Are these patents really worth millions? They are now, I said, but with the green construction market growing, their value will only increase. I'm considering a major project that could push the company's valuation to nearly €1 billion. A predatory gleam entered Isabela's eyes. 1 billion? That's staggering. It is. But it requires a mountain of paperwork and legal formalities. Honestly, I'd rather focus on design than deal with all that administrative nonsense. Isabela seized the opening immediately. Have you thought about letting me manage those things? I did study business management after all. I smiled. As a matter of fact, I was thinking of giving you power of attorney. That way, you could represent me in these matters when I'm not available. She could barely contain her excitement. Really? That's so thoughtful of you. It's nothing. I trust you, Isabela. You're my wife. What's mine is yours. The next day, she took the initiative, presenting me with a power of attorney. Agreement drafted by her own lawyer, one riddled with legal loopholes in her favor. I played the part of the lovelorn genius, staring at it with feigned confusion. Darling, I said, I don't understand these legal terms. I'm afraid I might sign something incorrectly and cause you trouble. It's better if we let my lawyer, Ignacio, handle it. He's the best, and he can ensure your interests are protected to the fullest. The move perfectly returned control to my hands, while making Isabela feel I was deeply concerned for her welfare. She agreed, never realizing she had just walked into the cage. That evening, she called Clara, her voice giddy with excitement. He took the bait. He's giving me power of attorney. It was so easy. The fool trusts me completely. She had no idea the call was being recorded. or that Clara's responses had been carefully scripted. Are you sure this is a good idea? Clara asked. What if he finds out? He won't. He's completely blinded by love. In a few days, I'll control all his patents. And then, and then what? Then, my dear Clara, it will be time for that little accident we discussed. The skiing accident in the Alps. A tragedy, of course, but a common one. Accidents happen, don't they? That recording became a cornerstone of my plan. On the sixth day, a Friday, Vargas called again, his voice far more threatening. Today is the deadline, Isabela. I want the money, or you'll face the consequences. That old mansion your grandmother left you. I hear the antiques inside are worth quite a bit. Isabela turned to me, her face a mask of desperation. Darling, that money, could you possibly arrange for it today? I'm already on it, I said calmly, but the bank says the earliest they can make it available is Monday. No, it has to be today, she nearly screamed. I feigned surprise. What is it? What's wrong? Nothing. It's just time sensitive. I pretended to think for a moment. Wait, I have an idea. If I give you that power of attorney right now, you could use some of my funds immediately. Isabela's eyes lit up. Really? You would do that? Of course. I've already had Ignacio prepare the documents. We can go to the notary's office right now. 2 hours later, we were at the notary, Ignacio holding the meticulously prepared papers. The document looked like a standard power of attorney, but it was laced with legal traps only a professional could spot. This power of attorney allows Isabela to represent you in all financial and patent-related matters, Ignacio explained. But it also includes a few protective clauses, such as the need for detailed records of all transactions. I nodded. Sounds reasonable? As the notary began to read the document aloud, I noticed Isabela was barely listening. Her mind was already soaring, picturing the fortune she would soon control. She kept glancing at her watch, anxious to be done. The notary read a key clause aloud. And by this agreement, both parties agree to assume unlimited joint and several liability, including all legal and financial consequences arising from the actions of either party. Isabela frowned. What does that mean? I took her hand. It means from now on, we truly share everything, for better or for worse. Isn't that romantic? Distracted by my words, Isabela smiled and nodded. Of course. Very romantic. She continued to drift, not truly hearing the rest of the clauses. And finally, she signed. In that moment, the trap officially sprang. The second she used this power for any illegal act, she would assume full responsibility. And because of the joint liability clause, she could never claim ignorance. When her signature was on the page, Ignacio and I exchanged a knowing look. The trap was set. Leaving the notary's office, Isabela said anxiously, I need to take care of a few things immediately. Do you mind if I go on my own this afternoon? Of course not, my love. I have some work to do. I'll see you tonight. The moment she was gone, I contacted Ignacio. She's taken the bait. Activate the next phase. That afternoon, my team monitored Isabela's every move. First, she went to the bank, transferring a full €1,000,000 from my account to a newly opened one of her own. This was double the $500,000 she'd asked for, proving her bottomless greed. Next, she went directly to Vargas's office to settle the family debt. But her next action was the most crucial. Instead of returning home, she went to a discreet coffee shop to meet an unknown man. He was burly, with a cold, hard expression, clearly not an honest citizen. Through the remote listening equipment Ignacio had arranged, I heard their entire conversation. So the plan is still on, Isabella said. The skiing trip to the Alps next month. You handle the accident. Make sure it looks completely random. In this line of work, Mrs. D'Alba, there are no accidents, the man said coolly. Only meticulous planning. The fee is 100,000 euros. Half up front. No problem, she said. Once it's done, I inherit all his patents, valued at least 5 million. Are you certain there are no legal loopholes? I have full authorization, she explained confidently. Besides, he has no close relatives. His brother in America has no interest in the family business. It will be perfect. The man nodded. Good. I need to know his daily routine, especially his skiing habits. He likes to ski early, she said. He usually chooses advanced, uncrowded slopes. I'll make sure we stay at the resort on the summit, the one with direct access to the most dangerous runs. He loves to challenge himself. Perfect, the man replied. A skiing accident on that kind of dangerous terrain won't raise any suspicion. The body might not be found for days, and by then, any investigation will be difficult. Isabella smiled. Then we have a deal. I switched off the recording and turned to Ignacio. We have enough. Yes, he confirmed. Premeditated murder. Enough to put her away for the rest of her life. What do you want to do now? I glanced at my watch. It's time to give her my wedding present. Prepare the company's new product launch. Invite all the major media outlets and industry leaders. You're going to expose her at the launch event? Not just expose her, I said. I'm going to give her a public execution. I will make her feel what it's like to be betrayed. I will make her experience what it's like to have her own plans turned against her. A week later, the most luxurious conference center in Madrid was filled with journalists, architects, and business leaders. They were all there to witness my latest innovation. The presentation had been widely publicized, promising a breakthrough that could change the entire construction industry. Isabella sat in the front row, dressed elegantly, a look of smug satisfaction on her face. Over the past week, she had begun acting as the de facto partner in my company, meeting with various business associates to discuss future collaborations. She had even started looking for her own office and assistants, completely immersed in the fantasy of the wealthy life ahead. On the large screens, a carefully edited video played, chronicling the sweet moments from our first meeting to our wedding day, set to a romantic score, building the atmosphere to a crescendo. As the footage showed us exchanging rings, Isabella smiled proudly at the business partners around her, as if to say, "Look, all of this is mine." I walked onto the stage to thunderous applause. Smiling, I began my speech. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. Today, I will not only be presenting the latest technological breakthrough from Mateo Design, but I will also be sharing some personal news. 2 weeks ago, I continued, I married Isabela de Alba, a woman I believed loved me deeply. Isabella's smile began to freeze. She sensed that something was wrong. But on my wedding day, I was fortunate enough to overhear my wife's true thoughts. My tone shifted, becoming hard and cold. She called me a poor idiot who thought he had married for love. A dead silence fell over the room. The color drained from Isabella's face. I pressed the remote, and the screen switched to an audio recording. Isabella's voice echoed clearly throughout the hall. A skiing accident in the Alps. A tragedy, of course, but a common one. Then came her conversation with the hitman, along with her multiple chats with Clara detailing the entire fraud. Every word was a sharp knife, stripping away her carefully constructed facade, revealing the ugly truth beneath. When the recording ended, I took a small box from my pocket. As a wedding gift, I want to offer my new wife 3 presents. I opened the box and took out the wedding ring. First, this ring, a symbol of the end of our marriage. I placed it on the table. Then, I held up a document. Second, this copy of the power of attorney with your signature, acknowledging your unlimited liability for all your actions, including your fraud and conspiracy to commit murder. Finally, I held up a USB drive. And third, a complete record of all your criminal activities, which has already been delivered to the police. At that moment, doors on both sides of the hall opened, and several police officers entered. They didn't come through the main entrance, but from the sides of the stage, one to the left and one to the right, placing both me on the stage and Isabela in the front row under a spotlight, creating a powerful image of judgment. Isabela de Alba, an officer announced, "You are under arrest for fraud and conspiracy to commit murder." Isabela screamed, jumping to her feet. "It's a trap! He set me up. I was forced." But no one was listening. As the police led her away, her father, Juan, rushed toward the stage. "This is a misunderstanding. My daughter was manipulated. She has mental problems." Ignacio immediately stepped forward, showing another document to the media. "This is the psychological evaluation Isabela underwent last week, indicating her mental state is completely normal. Furthermore, we have evidence that this is her third attempt at a similar scam." Amid the chaos, I spoke calmly into the microphone. "And now, let us return to today's topic, my new patent technology." And I truly had something to present, a revolutionary green construction system that would drastically reduce energy consumption and increase the lifespan of buildings. The technology immediately received acclaim from every professional in the room. My revenge and my professional achievement had reached their climax on the very same day. 3 months later, at trial, Isabela was sentenced to 15 years in prison. In the final phase, one of Isabela's ex-fiancés was called to testify, describing in detail how she had tried to defraud him with nearly identical techniques years before. It was irrefutable proof of a pattern of behavior. All of the D'Alba family assets were auctioned to pay off their debts. At the auction, the architectural model I had made by hand, the one Isabela had ridiculed, was also sold. I bought it anonymously through a representative at a high price and placed it in the most prominent spot in my new studio. It symbolized that I had reclaimed my true self. Clara, as a cooperating witness, started a new life in Lisbon. With my help, her family's restaurant overcame its crisis. After the trial, I visited Isabela in prison one last time. She had lost a great deal of weight, and the arrogance in her eyes had been replaced by a hollow despair. "Why did you come?" she asked coldly. "To gloat about your victory?" "No," I answered quietly. "I came to understand why, even if it was just about money. We could have created so much more value together." Isabela laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "You would never understand. The D'Alba family doesn't bow to anyone, especially not to new money like you. I was only taking back what should have been ours, through deceit and murder, by any means necessary." A stubborn spark still glowed in her eyes. "You may have won this round, Roman, but you will never have true noble blood." After a long silence, I asked, Did you ever love me, even for a second? She sneered. Love? That cheap emotion? I only love power and status, Roman. You were just a ticket to get them. I shook my head. You're wrong, Isabella. True nobility isn't in your blood, it's in your character. Walking out of the prison, I felt a sense of relief. The revenge was complete, but it didn't bring the satisfaction I had expected. I had achieved justice, yet there was still an emptiness inside me. Not because I regretted what I'd done, but because in the process, I had lost my original, pure passion for architecture. I had become someone else, a cold and calculating strategist. Now, it was time to find my true self again. A year later, my company launched the revolutionary green construction system, earning worldwide acclaim. It was on an architecture forum that I first met Anna, a young environmental engineer who proposed some remarkably insightful improvements to my designs. This structural connection point, Anna said, pointing to the blueprints, if you were to use new biomaterials, it could boost energy efficiency by 20%. I was stunned by her professional insight. Your ideas are genuinely creative, I told her. Could we talk more about this? Months passed. One evening, as Anna and I were discussing projects in my new studio, my eyes fell upon a model on the bookshelf. It was the very same architectural model that Isabella had once ridiculed, my first award-winning design. Is that an early piece of yours? Anna asked, her curiosity piqued. The design concept is incredibly avant-garde. I smiled. Yes, that was the beginning of my career. It was also a turning point in my life. As Anna continued to praise the model, I found myself speaking the first truly honest words I had uttered in a very long time. Hi, my name is Roman. That design idea you had, it has a fascinating structural concept. Can we talk about it? The story begins with a pure conversation about creation, and so it ends with one coming full circle. And that's the end of the story. So, what do you think of Roman's revenge? Do you believe he handled it the right way? If you were in his shoes, what would you have done? Please leave your honest thoughts in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our channel. That way, you won't miss out on more fascinating stories just like this one.